Spotlight is proudly sponsored by HEC Media, St. Louis's home for arts, education, and culture.
One of the most fascinating things about the World's Fair is the food and the restaurants.
I'm really grateful for the support that I've received on my musical journey.
It's an incredible audience, and it's really exciting.
Today on Spotlight, a little unknown fact. The 1904 World's Fair was famous for its unique restaurants. Plus, a new non-invasive way WashU is using to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. And then this exhibit celebrates lesser-known places around our beloved city. But first, the story behind the Muny's recent production of Chess. It's Sunday and you're watching the multiple Emmy Award-winning Spotlight.
It has long been thought there are strong connections between music and chess, but this is a game changer.
This is the Muny premiere of Chess, which is thrilling. It's one of 4 premieres we have this season, actually.
Break rules, break the bank.
Chess the musical, not the game, is the work of 3 grandmasters of musical theater. Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus of ABBA fame, they wrote the music. The lyrics are by Tim Rice, whose hits include Jesus Christ Superstar and Evita. The story they tell is fiction, but the creators drew their inspiration from the 1972 championship showdown between the American Bobby Fischer and the Russian Boris Spassky.
But I don't have the nerve to leave.
In 1986, when the musical debuted in London, Chess was a huge hit, but its success in America has been checkered.
They completely redid the show for Broadway. They brought in a new book writer, and that version actually didn't work. And so it only played a couple months in New York. But the album was still legendary. A national tour went out and sold out. And since then, it's become like this cult musical. Everybody loves it. The music's amazing, and you see there've been worldwide productions. I mean, it's about the Americans versus the Russians in chess. And there was a production in Moscow. I mean, it's just been done everywhere.
St. Louis is an especially appropriate city to host Chess the Musical because in 1886, the city was one of the hosts of the first World Chess Championship. So it only made sense that the Muny reached out to the St. Louis Chess Club and the World Chess Hall of Fame to sponsor the show. As luck would have it, the World Chess Hall of Fame had already been planning to open an exhibit at the same time about the connections between music and chess.
We have some artists who have created chess-related musical instruments. We have Guido van der Werf's chess piano. That was actually in our very first exhibition that we opened here in 2011. There are a lot of connections between chess and music. There are a lot of musicians who play chess and love chess and like to incorporate it in their lyrics. I think that a lot of people can play chess and a lot of people can play music or sing, but I think it's a special kind of mind that can do that really intricate thinking and planning out songs and scores and the long-term games.
Along with the exhibit, on the day single tickets went on sale at the Muny, the World Chess Hall of Fame handed out chess pieces for people to decorate that were then assembled into a sculpture of a knight created by a local artist coincidentally named Justin King.
It's a big show with a lot of people, so it's not easy to produce. I mean, we have 28 pieces playing the score here, which is incredible. It's complicated, and plus the 4 leading roles are just some of the hardest things in musical theater.
Bringing a cult musical to the Muny stage for the first time may sound like a gamble, but Mike Isaacson, who has staged at least 2 Muny premieres each season, believes adding chess to that list is hardly a risky move.
This audience is so open and adventuresome and ready for it. And I'm always surprised when people are like, well, will they like that at the Muny? I'm like, Yes. It's an incredible audience, and it's really exciting.
It's the oldest and largest outdoor theater in the country. The Muny has been making magic for 100 years.
The seats seem to go on for miles.
When that audience claps and it's a full house, there's nothing like it.
The Muny is totally unique.
No one does 7 shows in 8 weeks. That's an insane schedule.
Every element is created here. The costumes, the scenery, the makeup, the props.
Mammoth Productions, 11 days of rehearsal, St. Louis, outdoor, summer theater. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any logical sense.
But that is precisely when and where it happens.
Big, giant, magical feast of incredible Muny magic.
Dozens of interviews tell the story of the Muny's incredible milestone.
It's ours, it's St. Louis's, it's a part of our life. It absolutely represents the best of us.
The Best of Us, 100 seasons of Muny magic.
HEC celebrates St. Louis like no other media outlet, highlighting those making a difference through science and technology.
It's a wonderful community of young entrepreneurs who are all doing very amazing things.
Focusing on arts and education.
Poverty is not going to stop a student from getting a quality education. We can't let that happen.
Broadcasting meetings and functions to educate and inform our community.
St. Louis feels like a city on the road to extraordinary things.
Producing compelling documentaries celebrating our region.
Henry Shaw founded the Missouri Botanical Garden, one of the first of its kind in the country and one of the best of its kind in the world.
Visit hecmedia.org for up-to-date, locally produced stories about the people and organizations who make St. Louis great.
History Spotlight, brought to you by HEC Media and the Missouri Historical Society.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jody Sowell from the Missouri Historical Society, and this is History Spotlight. You may feel that you know a lot about the 1904 World's Fair, but did you know that it was famous for unique restaurants? Public historian Adam Kloppe tells us more.
The World's Fair is one of the signature events in St. Louis's history. In 1904, over 19 million people visited to attend the World's Fair, where over 60 nations came and displayed, goods and technological innovations. There were temporary buildings built for this fair, these iconic structures. And it's so easy to find pictures of those buildings that sometimes other attractions at the World's Fair get a little bit lost. And I think one of the most fascinating things about the World's Fair is the food and the restaurants that introduce new kinds of food to St. Louis or serve food in interesting places. Everybody knows about the World's Fair Ferris wheel, right? One of the largest, most iconic structures. But what some people might not know is that the Ferris wheel was so popular that people were renting it out for banquets and weddings and things like that. They eventually, over the course of the fair, renamed one of the cars on the Ferris wheel the Ferris Wheel Diner, and you could rent it out for an evening and have a banquet on there. So that became popular enough that they were just like, you know what, we're gonna dedicate a part of this attraction to food and to restaurant service. One of my favorite restaurants at the fair is the Louisiana and Texas Rice Kitchen. It was this little food stand near one of the main gates to the fair. It ended up being one of the most popular restaurants at the fair. It was put on by a rice growers association that was based in the United States, and they were really trying to use this stand to popularize rice in America. Every dish that the restaurant served came with a side of rice. All of their bread was made from rice. All of their desserts were made from rice. Their menus had testimonials on them about how good rice was for you. It also had rice-based recipes in the menu. So they really used this to popularize rice, and it kind of worked. A lot of people ate at that restaurant and came away thinking about rice as a dish that maybe they hadn't before. There's also all sorts of other restaurants at the fair. There were fine dining options, like at the Luchau Faust restaurant in the Tyrolean Alps. This was an attraction where there were man-made mountains in the background that recreated a scene in the Alps. And there was this huge restaurant in there that seated hundreds and hundrds of people. Guests were entertained by a 100-piece band. You could eat a 3 or 4 course meal. You could have beer and wine in this place. It was really this popular spot. But then there's also restaurants that are more themed at sort of a kitschier audience, if you will. One of my favorites is called the Anthracite Coal Restaurant. And it was in a mining exhibit at the fair. And you actually had to take an elevator down below the ground to get into this restaurant. And once you were in there, all the tables, all the walls, everything was made out of anthracite coal. And so you could eat underground in this restaurant. The waiters walked around, they had little hard hats on with lights on them like you were in a mine. And they didn't serve like fancy food. They served what they were called Dutch lunches, which was just like sandwiches and stuff. So it wasn't like fine dining, but you could eat in this different looking place and you could go anywhere in St. Louis. It's this really fascinating story about the way that people were trying to use food to interact with these exhibits at the fair, and I think things like that are so exciting.
Next week on History Spotlight, why engineers didn't believe that this spectacular St. Louis bridge would stand.
To learn more about the Missouri Historical Society, visit mohistory.org.
HEC Media, recognized, celebrated, honored time and again for excellence in the industry. HEC Media has been bringing home the hardware for over a decade. Arts and education to author talks, magazine shows and documentaries, individual craft achievements to overall excellence. Find all of the award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
Dr. Hong Chen is dedicated to what may seem like the impossible.
This constant puzzle of what's happening in my brain.
She's referring to all human brains that share this complexity. And getting answers to serious problems is hard.
Like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or brain tumors.
Because the brain is so protected. There are ways, MRIs, CT scans, but
with those imaging techniques, you don't know what's the genetic or molecular makeup of that disease.
She says a tissue biopsy is an option with an invasive surgery.
Removal of a small piece of skull and then insert the long needle and take out a piece of the brain tissue. Only available for brain tumor patient. When patient has Alzheimer's or other disease, we don't even have access to that small piece of tissue. And to get that information, what can we do?
So the Associate Professor of Biomedical Engineering and Radiation Oncology has a vision for a new method of diagnosis.
It's non-invasive access to small molecules like a DNA, RNA, protein, all those small molecules in the brain.
The research in her Washington University School of Medicine lab could even facilitate diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. Chen is using a focused ultrasound technique that she says can overcome challenges of new emerging methods for diagnosis, such as blood testing. Those challenges are due to the blood-brain barrier that makes some valuable information difficult to access non-invasively.
Our brain is protected by this blood-brain barrier that protect any toxins in the blood from reaching the brain, which we needed dearly.
But Dr. Chen found a way to get through.
We use focused ultrasound, which has a capability to concentrate ultrasound energy in a very precise location deep inside the brain. You can concentrate sound waves to a very localized spot.
Once located, the researchers inject microbubbles into the blood that travel to the ultrasound-targeted tissue and pulsate, which safely opens the blood-brain barrier.
Microbubbles, I always call them magic bubbles. They are gas bubbles. They have a unique capability of expanding and contracting when you apply mechanical wave because they are bubbles, right? And then combine this focused ultrasound with microbubble together, what we achieve is a mechanical approach to generate forces on the blood-brain barrier. This part of technique is not what we invented.
That method was developed for drug delivery to the brain. But Chen says her innovation is a new technique of retrieving biomarkers of diseases.
What we propose is once this barrier is open, we can also get brain disease-specific biomarkers, DNA, RNA, protein, released from brain to the blood. So this part is the innovation that we introduced.
For example, Alzheimer's disease is defined in part by having tau proteins in the brain. Chen and collaborators found that using focused ultrasound-mediated liquid biopsy in a mouse model released more tau proteins and another biomarker into the blood than without the intervention.
What our technology offers is a way to enrich the amount of brain disease-specific biomarkers in the blood, and also providing the capability to target specific brain area to achieve this spatially targeted biomarker release. And then number 3, we now also have the capability to collect the blood at a controlled time after the ultrasound procedure. So we can control when to collect the blood to minimize clearance of the biomarker.
Acquiring valuable information needed for accurate diagnosis of neurodegenerative diseases and much more.
Once this door is open, the application of this technology can be potentially expanded to many other diseases in the brain.
This story brought to you by Educate.Today.
The reason that wolves are endangered is because in the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was actually a campaign to remove all carnivores from the landscape. Bears, wolves, coyotes, mountain lions, you name it. And back then, their idea was, if we get rid of these guys, there'll be less competition for elk and deer for us, and it'll be easier hunting for us. We didn't understand how connected everything was in nature back then, and that by removing these carnivores, we actually lost a lot of diversity in our ecosystem. And so this campaign really led to near extinction for a lot of the species across North America, and ultimately it affects our health. Because of that, biologists really saw over the last several decades what ecosystems look like without their large carnivores. And so the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and their partners have been working to actually restore lost populations, including wolves. The American red wolf is a keystone species. Keystone species help keep everything in balance and in check in the ecosystem. A really cool example that we've seen of how wolves are keystone species is actually with the gray wolf in Yellowstone. The gray wolf had been removed from Yellowstone over 70 years ago. We completely lost wolves, and the ecosystem changed. Elk and deer populations skyrocketed, and what that meant is that they were eating all the plants down to the dirt. When trees would fall, no new trees would replace them because they were eating the saplings. We lost habitat for songbirds and pollinators and fish along the riverbanks that relied on those plants, and waterfowl and everything else. And when they started to bring the wolves back in 1995, they saw a change. They saw trees and plants coming back that they hadn't seen. They saw waterfowl come back that they hadn't seen. They saw the American beaver come back, which they hadn't seen for years, because without trees, beavers can't make their dams. And when the beavers made their dams, that made habitat for endangered species of fish. So that's just a small example of why wolves are keystone species and why animals like the American red wolf are so important to save.
May 19th is Endangered Species Day, but you can use Educate.Today every day for classroom and homeschool-ready videos focused on endangered species and how you can help them.
This is the Green Door Art Gallery, and what we're looking at here today is the Secret St. Louis art exhibit. So the idea came about when we were getting ready to celebrate our 10th anniversary here at Green Door Art Gallery. And since we've always supported and promoted the artists of the St. Louis metro area, I thought it would be fun to have those artists give us their view of their favorite places in St. Louis that maybe not everybody knows about. So that's where we came up with the Secret St. Louis Hidden Gems idea. Green Door Art Gallery opened in July of 2013. The original artists who opened it were Michelle Wells and Vic Mastis, and I became an artist here in 2017 and purchased the gallery in 2019. The gallery represents 35 local artists whose work is here all the time. So you'll be seeing just a variety of media, from oils and pastels to woodworking to ceramics to mixed media, fibers, jewelry. There's just a variety of things that you can find here at the gallery. So Green Door Art Gallery's mission throughout its entire 10-year history has been to promote the artists of St. Louis, because we have so many wonderful artists here. We didn't think it was necessary to pull in artists from other areas. So as a celebration of that for our 10-year anniversary, we thought Secret St. Louis would be a great idea to have, the St. Louis artists show us what their views of the hidden gems and the great spots in the area are. So when you come to Green Door Art Gallery to visit the Secret St. Louis exhibit, what you're going to see is maybe some landmarks that you're familiar with, but you might see them from a different angle that you've never noticed before, maybe a view at night or just some aspect of it that you don't know. But you're going to recognize some iconic places like Cherokee Street, Crown Candy Kitchen, and the Botanical Gardens. But there are also a lot of places that you might not recognize, so it'll give you an opportunity to discover a whole new side of St. Louis. It's just these artists' idea of what makes St. Louis great. So Secret St. Louis runs through August 26th, and you can get more information at greendoorartgallery.com.
Classic rock fortunately came about in a time when artists were allowed a lot more leeway. They were able to feel inspiration.
Music creates a lifestyle, a culture. It's about clothes you wear, it's about your hair, it's about your eyes, it's about your heart, it's about your life.
Rock and roll really is primarily between the Smokies and Rockies with the Northwest thrown in. It is more of a Midwestern, Central United States phenomenon.
When I started at Casey, almost the whole time I was there, it was truly free-form radio. We probably had 7,000 records in the studio, and you could play whatever you wanted to play. And that's why there's so much music in St. Louis that other cities have no idea what the hell it is.
Why does one city have certain artists that are big there and not in other cities? It could be that we're right in the middle of the United States. We're a gateway to certain things. People would come here, and this would be a jumping off place for new adventure in the West. Something in the water,
To watch the full documentary, visit hecmedia.org.
We love springtime, when the grass is green and the flowers spring up from the wet ground. It's so warm outside, let's go out and have some fun. We love playing with mud, after it rains it is so fun. Making chocolate mud pies in the sun.
I'm Steph Plant, and I'm a Montessori teacher, singer-songwriter, and musician living in Alton, Illinois, working here in Pontoon Beach at Metro East Montessori School. I teach primary, which is preschool and kindergarten combined. Ages 2 through 6 is my specialty. And we all work here in this one classroom together.
Then we come right back.
My dream was to be a singer when I grew up, and a mom. Wanted to be a singer and a mom. And so when I got through college, I released an EP, and then I ended up with a really dear friend of mine named Sarah V. V and I developed a duo called the Leonas, and we wrote beautiful, just empowered folk music. The music I made with the Leonas is still really important to me because that music helped me to honor my pain and honor my internal struggle, my inner child, and helped me to find cathartic release in my music with the Leonas.
A magical food with the gift of sight, and in the silence of the garden it stands alone, shrouded in the fear of the unknown.
This was my project after the Leonas, was my Slithering Snake book, and I made all of the images relief block print, and it goes with one of my songs about snakes. That was also during that time I made an album. Mothwings and Other Things is my children's album I made during that time, all inspired by my journey as a Montessori teacher and based on all of the actual interests that the children have. Since the pandemic, I've been on a new journey with music.
I straightened out my spine, my burdens.
I composed a collection of songs that I call The Cup, And it's radically different from any of the music that I have made before because it relies on these pure tone frequencies that resonate from crystal singing bowls. My husband, Micah, purchased a full set of 7 crystal singing bowls, and he actually intones them. So that's what we've been doing lately with music, and it's especially tender and special to me to get to do it with my husband.
I shall be open.
It's been such a creative resource working with children because they are just little spinning orbs of creativity. Everything around them ignites their imagination, and they are so eager to share with me what excites them. And it gives me a model for being in that mode of a creative being who is excited and interested and curious about the world. And when they share with me what they're curious about, I was like, maybe we could write a song about that. And we write songs together a lot, actually. They love writing songs with me. And they like making up their own hand motions to the songs. And so that really gets their whole body involved. And they really take ownership of the music that they make. My children in my classroom know how deeply important music is to me because I take my guitar down every day and because I'm always singing and I'm always writing songs and we're always dancing together. And I know that that's enriching to them. A deep connection with music can feel very personal when you have taken on the role of the songwriter. Yeah, I'm really grateful for the support that I've received on my musical journey and all of the people who've come around me to want to hear what it is I have to say and to want to encourage my gifts and talents.
May the truth of your love feed you. May the truth of your love feed me too. May your love be true, true, true. May the truth of your love shine through. Our love. May the truth of our love feed you. May the truth of our love feed me too. May our love be true, true, true. May the truth of our love shine through.
Next week, the nation's largest collection of building artifacts in Sauget, Illinois. Plus, Fiona Davis and her new book, The Spectacular. Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us next Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on KPLR 11.